Yeah, my name is Mary Matheson. I'm a director. I essentially make films for charities. Mostly I've worked for international development charities. My background is as a journalist. And you know what sort of motivated me over the years is to always come up with innovative ways to tell the same story, which is usually somebody's really poor and they really need some money, or you want to change the environment for somebody, or you want to change a law. So we've got to come up constantly with new ways of telling these stories, and obviously VR is, as Pete has explained, the latest way, which has really given us a whole new world to talk about. So what we thought, the way we sort of split today was we thought it would be really useful for me to just tell you about a VR film that I made for Plan International. And in a way, this might help you with your behind-the-scenes question. And literally, I'll sort of take you through a little bit how we made the film. I know that WaterAid have made a behind-the-scenes film on their product about Nepal called Aftershock, and that's really worth watching. It's a good VR film. So basically, Plan International, I don't know if you guys know them, they are an international child rights charity, very like Save the Children. They do a lot of work on girls' rights, and they have a particular campaign which is about getting girls back into school. It's called Because I'm a Girl. So they wanted to make a VR film primarily for a gala dinner, a fundraising dinner, and they wanted it to be about girls' rights. They chose VR because, as Pete explained, it really sort of puts you in the shoes of somebody. Rather than sort of, with flat screen film, we sort of think of it as being able to sort of look through the window into somebody else's life. Virtual reality, you actually step through the window and into their life. So they really wanted me to tell a real life story so that people would sort of understand what it was like to be a girl somewhere. They wanted the tone to be not girls are victims, and that it would be really empowering ultimately. And the tone should be not please help me, but get out of my way because people are stopping me from actually being who I want to be in my life. So having never made a virtual reality film, I got together with a company called Surround Vision, and they'd done one film in Senegal. I think it was called The Great Green Wall, so I don't know if you know it. It's sort of a big environmental project in Senegal. And I mean, there are so few people making virtual reality at the moment that these guys were one of the only specialist organisations that were making these films. We chose Sierra Leone basically because Plan had a really great project there looking at why young girls didn't become teachers, or why there were no teachers that were females in Sierra Leone. I think the statistic is 12% are women. So they decided to set up a project that would help girls who dropped out of school maybe when they were 12 or 13 and give them sort of rapid education, get them up to a level that they could then go on to a teacher's training college. So that's what we decided to make a film about. There were basically 3 producers from Surround Vision, myself, a representative from Plan International, and then also we took a drone operator with us. So it was quite a big team. I'm used to actually just working with me and a camera operator when I go usually to make flat screen films. But it was actually quite a good setup because it meant that we could split up and do, one team could be preparing and the other team could actually be filming. So it meant that we worked really quickly and we shot the film in 6 days. So step 1 was to find our character. And we interviewed 8 girls, actually they were women really, sort of 18 to 23, and we sort of asked them to just tell us their story and what it was, what had led them to drop out of school in the first place, and, you know, their journey towards becoming these teaching assistants and then going on to Teachers Training College. And so essentially, you know, when you interview people, you have to kind of work out who's going to work well on TV, who's quite sort of charismatic or powerful, who's got a really good story to tell. And that was the, you know, that's always the main objective whenever I'm interviewing somebody. It's whose story do I really want to hear again? Or, you know, it's not massively complicated, but so we chose this lovely woman, Mammy, who's 23, and her story was about how her family had wanted her to be cut when she was sort of 12 or 13. And she didn't want to, and it wasn't necessarily just because she didn't want to be cut, it was because often being cut means you have to drop out of school, and she really wanted to stay in school because she had a dream to be a teacher. So we basically sat with her the first time, you know, in the room with the other girls, and then we did an on-camera interview with her, and then I tried to edit it. And then I worked with Mammy herself to edit down the script so that it was her words, and it was really important to me that it wasn't my view of Mammy or my view of what I thought people in the gala dinner would want to hear. It was really what she had to say, and that was, you know, I just thought that it would be much more authentic if we actually heard from her. And it was a really unique experience because often when you're filming flat screen, you go, you film, you record the interview, and then you go back home and you edit it. And it's kind of easy to do because you can put pictures over it. With virtual reality, it's a little bit different. You know, you've got to really create this story in a very different way. So I worked with her, and then we recorded the voiceover. With the shots, again, it's really different. It's not like, I don't know how many of you have been involved in filming where you sort of always set up a whole sequence. Or if somebody's talking about school, for example, you'll think, okay, I'm going to go to a school and I'll create a sequence in the school. You'll have a wide shot of the school. You'll have, you know, kids going into the school, whatever. You can't have as many shots in virtual reality because you need to give people time to actually look around them. So in a regular film, you might have a shot that's 3 seconds long. I mean, in virtual reality, it really needs to be 20 seconds so that somebody can really look around. Otherwise, there's just no point in it being there. There's no point in having a virtual reality film unless people can actually soak up, you know, what they're seeing. The other thing to work out is, you know, do you want the film to be from somebody's point of view? In which case, you know, the camera essentially has to be like on them somehow. So with virtual reality, often people use a helmet, and then you see things from that person's point of view. Or do you want it to be like a buddy? Is the camera going to be near that person so you feel like you're their friend? Or are you going to be a fly on the wall and just like kind of there in the background? So those are just things to think about when you are making your film. One of the things I really liked about the company I worked with was that they were sort of trying to move on the shots that people are using, because moving shots in virtual reality can be quite difficult because people start to feel sick if you move too quickly, or you move too, you know, you sort of go into a moving shot very quickly. Then people have to take off the headset because they feel sick. So we had to be really careful about trying to make the film look dynamic, but not, you know, not make people feel sick. I've just been given a 3-minute warning, so I'll flick through some of these next slides quickly. But basically, our opening shot is on a boat. This is the camera rig. We use a GoPro camera rig. Actually, there are like 3 different rigs we use, but we use six cameras. That's how you do it. I was going to show you how difficult it is to try and organize a bunch of kids in a schoolyard, but time is not going to allow it. This was a shot that we did of Mammy trying to make her seem really isolated, and so it was a time-lapse shot. All the other 5 cameras were time-lapse, but the one of her was just a regular live action. So that sort of gave this really amazing effect where you felt like the whole world was moving around her very quickly and passing her by. And I just thought I'd include that. That's another rig, again, 6 cameras on it. And then we used a drone, which was a kind of crazy thing to do, but now people do it pretty regularly. But it just gave an incredible shot at the end of our film where you see Mammy and you kind of go over a river. So it gave us a really added, amazing element to it. And this was the final sort of webpage that Plan International used. Just a quick list of golden nuggets. Take a headset with you to show people what virtual reality is. I mean, it's actually a really amazing thing for kids in Sierra Leone to be watching a film about London, and the film that we showed them sort of went up Monument. And they absolutely loved it. You've got to be really, really organised because, you know, the cameras, one stops working on the memory card finishes, and, you know, it's not even just one, you know, you've got 6 cameras all at the same time that might be, you know, using up their battery, especially in the heat. The batteries just go. And then the other thing is crowd control. If you've got somebody that can go off and take stills while you're trying to do your filming, that really helps. Or someone, one of the guys was with us once who he could juggle. And so he got all the kids sort of, you know, he was doing all these sort of tricks and he got the kids to go off with him. So that sort of helps. This was the gala dinner where Plan used the headsets. We had 3 volunteers to a table using Google Cardboard. It was quite mental, but actually worked, and people really enjoyed it. They got, you know, they found it really moving. And again, we've used it, as Pete said, in these sort of events. You know, the headsets really sort of work in face-to-face and other sort of events like that. So unfortunately, they won't give me the conversion rates, but they just said that it's higher than normal. So there you go. And those are my contact details, and also the other people involved, if you guys ever want to get in touch with them, and you can watch the film at that. I sort of ran through that last bit, sorry. Do we have time for questions? Does anybody have any questions? Here you go. I'm not going to throw it at you, I'll throw it to you.
Hi. I was, without seeing the film, I was just wondering how you got around the language barrier, because I guess I was kind of wondering whether subtitling would take people out of and make them, you know, take them out of the immersive experience and just make them feel that they're just watching a regular film.
It's really hard. I mean, I think if you can, with her it's fine because she spoke English.
Right.
So actually it was okay, but I was sort of, Save the Children, they've just made a VR film in Indonesia, and they ended up using subtitles. And it's okay. I think you just have to give people a little bit more time. I think it's hard. Nobody's quite worked that out yet. I don't know what you guys did. Did you use subtitles?
We had... no. So no. We could, like, either... The way I've seen subtitling done is either with... repeating the same thing at the same time in 4 different directions. That's kind of the only way that I've seen it work now. Yeah. I don't know that anyone's tied it to head tracking yet, but that would be the best way of doing it, so that the subtitles, I guess, sort of float around as you turn your head. In our film, we have, in the Amazon Munduruku film, there are 2 moments when the chief speaks directly to camera. Most of it's voiceover, so it's translated. There are 2 moments where he speaks in Munduruku to camera, and there's very simple subtitles next to him, because that's the most likely direction you're looking in at that time. Yeah. But if you turn away, you won't see it. So that's sort of how we did it.
Good question. Anything else? Cool. Okay, cool. Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
For potentially both of you. Firstly, time. Obviously, I don't know whether filming and editing or the whole thing. You could probably give us a number of different times. But also the cost. What it cost and how long it all took.
So the filming itself took 6 days, as I said. if I was filming in the UK, I would take longer, but you know, because we only had a certain amount of time over there. That was really tight. And in terms of editing, I mean, actually the editing doesn't take too long because in a sense you've got your shots, you know, so there's only so much you can do. There aren't that many shots. What takes time is stitching all the lines together. So I think it took 3 weeks to do the editing. In terms of cost, I would think that you would expect to pay between 80 and 150,000. But that might not include an app.
In terms of time, it's varied a lot depending on so we've made several films, and like the entire production time, from like writing the brief and getting internal sign-off right the way through to releasing it, has varied between a couple of months and a year and a half, depending on the scale of the project. And regarding cost, I have no comment.
I know that some of the larger companies like Within would charge up to $250,000. But
yeah, it varies a lot.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly expensive. Like I've spoken to some companies who've just come back with like wild numbers that feels like they picked out of thin air. There's just no way that we could ever afford to pay that kind of money. And other companies, like if you work with a big production company, it's going to cost a lot more. If you have a small team of freelancers who know what they're doing, then that's a much cheaper way of doing it. Right now, it's expensive, but that cost is going to come down. As the technology moves forward, the cameras are refined, the software for editing is refined, the process is refined, the cost is going to come down. You can do it very simply and cheaply. Like you can buy a £250 Ricoh 360 camera with 2 lenses and go and make a film. And I've seen some amazing stuff from BBC News where they've just been experimenting with it, doing reports. You can do that really, really simply and cheaply, and that's, you know, a few £100s. The bigger productions, obviously, they cost more because you've got, you know, going overseas, you've got logistics for the crew and those sorts of things, insurance for the equipment. Some of the cameras are very, very expensive. So all of that adds up and it can cost a lot of money. But I can't say any specifics, I'm afraid.
Okay.